Hello, 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 hello.
Bonjour, Aning, Justin Beatty and Dishnakaz, Bigish Gibin and Dishnakaz, Hadley, Massachusetts, and Dojiba. Hello, my name is Justin Beatty. In Ojibwe, I'm known as He Breaks Him Into Pieces. Living in Hadley, Massachusetts. Anishinaabe and Yesa, so I'm Ojibwe and Saponi descent. And I am the lead singer and drum keeper for Intertribal Powwow group based here in Massachusetts called Urban Thunder.
It's like, hey, how are you? My name is John Hill. That's in Cherokee. Yeah.
Uki, Napi, Nistu, Botanis, greetings. My name is Anthony Melting Tallow.
We're an intertribal drum group. And so what that means is we're made up of people from different native nations. It's not like all just Mi'kmaq or all Dene or all, Anishinaabe or any one particular nation. My family, part of my family is from Canada. We've got guys who are Wampanoag from the Cape, who are the people who the Pilgrims first met. We're made up of singers from different cultural backgrounds, different tribal backgrounds.
Western Cherokee and Saponi with a bit of Creek and Choctaw, which is kind of like a common Oklahoma 5-tribe diaspora.
I live so far away from my home territory of southern Alberta, Canada. So the head medicine man gave me the name Flying Chief because I've flown a long distance to be away from my homelands.
We sing together at powwows, and so our identity is based in us really trying to find the ways that we all work together. We all come together as Native people to provide songs for events. Urban Thunder is kind of an offshoot of a previous drum group. Myself and 3 other Native students at UMass, we decided that we wanted to have a drum group, and we wanted to have something for the Native community here at UMass that would also allow students who came in after us to kind of be connected to it, sort of create like kind of a legacy situation, right? And we used to practice at the Josephine White Eagle Cultural Center, which is in the basement of the Chadbourne dorm on the UMass campus. This is mid to late 90s. We had a fairly large presence as far as Native students go on campus, but a lot of the general public just isn't aware of Native people as part of everyday life. Like, we take place in this historical context. We had a pair of guys that lived above the cultural center that would reach out of their window and bang a hockey stick onto the window of the cultural center. They would relieve themselves out of the window. They would yell, and we were like, you know what, we got to go upstairs and say something. And we were like, cut it out. Like, this is it. You do that again, and it's actually going to be like a real problem. They apologized, and we were going back downstairs, and Warren, who was one of the singers back then, who's a member of the group now, was like, man, we're rolling deep. And Joyce Vincent, who was the director of the Cultural Center at the time, heard that and was like, that's your name. That's the drum group's name. And it just stuck, And so we were known as Rolling Deep for quite a long time.
I mean, a lot of those guys live out on the Cape or in Connecticut or something, So Justin's the last bastion of the founders.
Specifically, as the group Urban Thunder started in 2009. My friend Mike Mastronzi and I, we were living in Boston. We just kind of wanted to start singing again. So we decided, let's try and start up another drum group. And we had a few other people who came, saw the flyers and decided they wanted to give it a shot. And out of that came Urban Thunder. As far as I know, we were the only drum group that really expressly presented itself as being natives from a city. we kind of wanted to give a nod to the fact that there's a lot of Native folks that live in cities that don't, live on the res, or they're not in rural communities.
I grew up going back and forth between spending time with my dad in Brooklyn and, being on Long Island. I grew up in the hood, you know what I mean? So in the day-to-day, when people see me, they wouldn't think to put me in the context of, oh, that's a Native person. Like, it's like, he's black, or he's Puerto Rican, or are you Samoan? Like, what, indeterminate ethnic background. So being an urban Indian kind of has this weird sort of space that you operate in where you can be in your regular modern life and still be invisible.
Our experiences were, we grew up in the city, so we didn't grow up on the reservation. We didn't grow up surrounded by the Blackfoot culture. We're plains, so our culture does include the drum and the ceremony surrounding the drum. So I grew up exposed to it, but not like immersed in it on the reservation.
The drum is, in a lot of ways, sort of the backbone of powwow. Without the drum, you don't really have powwow, because that's where the music comes from, to be able to dance. The drum also represents, the drum beat itself represents the heartbeat of all things. So it's this real sort of steady beat for the most time. It's not the doom, 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 doom like you hear in the movies and stuff like that. If your heart's beating like that, go to a doctor, because there's something wrong with you.
One thing that I think makes Urban Thunder distinct is just the drum. I've seen more people come up who will actually be like, I love this drum, and talk about the love they have for that drum. Not talking about us, but actually for that drum.
Sometimes when we sing a song, people are kind of moved by the song, so what they'll do is they'll crumple up $1 or something and they throw it onto the drum while we're singing. It's kind of to be like, yeah, we like what you're doing. And then what we do is we take those off and we tie them to the drum to take them with us, and we kind of count them as like prayers to remind us to, to sing for the right reasons and to do our best as singers. The drum is, for a lot of people, it's a spiritual being. It has a certain spiritual connotation. We refer to the drum as grandfather, right? And the songs are medicine. So when you sing, there's healing in the songs. And so it's important to be able to have something that gives sort of spiritual medicine to our communities, because we have a lot of trauma. We have a lot of cultural, actual physical trauma. We have a lot of mental trauma. We have a lot of spiritual trauma. And so things that can kind of help ease some of that pain are important.
We as communities owe a lot to the drum in general, because America's had certain fixations with indigenous people. One of the fixations has been the dispossession of land and their extermination, right? We all know about that. And during that time, especially when you have them scooping up kids and sending them off to boarding schools, their language is in danger, their culture was in danger, all this kind of stuff they were pushed for an extinction event. And the drum, because of America's fixation with the cultural element, and they wanted like a sanitized version of it, the drum became integrated into these Wild West shows and these things. And a lot of songs and the language survived through that, because they were allowed to perform in that context, right? But it was a survival strategy. It's very much still a means of sharing culture with other communities and learning from other people and having a cross-generational dialogue as well through the drum,
Most people that I talk to that are drum keepers or involved with drums, we all come from the understanding that the drum is an entity. It has a spirit. You take care of your grandfather. Like he generally has a place of prominence in whatever room that he's in, or has his own space. You don't just leave him out anywhere by himself. out of respect. And if you act appropriately and treat the grandfather well, then grandfather does the same for you. They say, oh, it's just drumming. They think of it as like it's just a hobby you can pick up. It's really not. Like the amount of responsibility that goes into it, the reverence with which people hold the act of being a powwow singer, like it's important to people. It's important to culture. And so there's a certain amount of like respect and responsibility and gravity that accompanies being a powwow singer.
Typical powwow? Well, okay. So the idea is everybody's supposed to be there on time. They'll say the powwow, like grand entry, is at 11:30 or noon, right? Usually noon. But they won't get started till like 2 o'clock. So that's a thing, but that's kind of cultural. Like it's supposed to start when it starts, And I'm not saying all Native people aren't on time, but it's supposed to happen when it happens. So once that gets figured out and everyone gets there, then warm up the drum, right? Get it out in the circle in the sun, warm the head up, get everyone situated in their seats. And when you arrange people's seats, it's about the balance of the sound. So usually there's a matter of talking about where people should sit to get that situated. And then warm up song, grand entry, flag song, veterans flag.
There's these things called flag bearers, right? And they're veterans who carry in usually an eagle staff, which is kind of like the standard flag for a lot of Native tribes. It's a curved pole with eagle feathers hanging on it. The American flag, usually like the POWMIA flag. If there's any visiting nations that brought their flag, they have veterans carry them in.
And then it's on to like usually intertribals. Do that for like an hour, hour and a half, a couple hours, depending on what the mix is. Take a break to eat, come back, and then it's usually like exhibition.
About that dance, that is called the sneak up, and it is one of the oldest recorded dances in North America. The purpose of this dance is the dancers to show and tell about their prowess in battle or hunting, and they show maybe they're sneaking up on an enemy or their prey for food, and then they dance to tell that story.
Even a lot of communities who were not traditionally powwow people started adopting it, and having it in their communities to participate in kind of the pan-Indian community.
There's a really good sense of, at least in my experience, of community, but people are kind of spread out. So we don't interact as much as we would like in some cases,
Being in an area with not a lot of indigenous people, there's a few people you're going to cling to like wreckage in the storm, you know what I mean? Like, we'll get through this together. Justin's kind of funny because inevitably, like, you'll see someone who will, there'll be like a random Dene person out here, and they'll be like, whoa, I didn't know that people, did powwows out here. And they always go to Justin. It's funny. And they'll be like, I moved out here with this guy and da-da-da-da-da-da. I didn't know there were any natives out here and this kind of thing, but it's the drum that, and so it becomes a relatively safe space to meet and coalesce, right?
You're with people all the time. It's the same group of people all the time. You get to know each other's personalities. You hear each other's stories. You find out what brought them to singing, like what made them want to sit down and actually learn all of the things that go into it. There's so much that goes into like learning to be a powwow singer. You learn about the good times, you learn about the bad. You're there when, somebody's having a baby or when somebody passes away, like there's a very family-oriented sort of nature to it that we purposely tried to cultivate. That's one of the, things that makes even the tough times really worthwhile. We're family. We treat each other as brothers.
It's something very new, very intriguing, and very important. I didn't realize the importance of the cultural community out here and how vibrant it was.
Yeah, I mean, this has become my community. It's my home community now. Of course, I concern myself with the things that are going on, down in Virginia for the Saponi side and up in Canada for the Ojibwe side, but I'm not there. I'm of the opinion like, well, I'm here, so let me help here, and I've been around for a long time, and I've seen a lot of students come and go. I've seen, professors come and go. I've seen regular community members come and go, and I've kind of had a certain amount of being constant within that. So it's just comfortable for me at this point, and I feel like I know the area, I know the people, I know the mentality of the community. Like, I consider UMass my home powwow now. It's Urban Thunder's home powwow because the drum group evolved out of, starting here. So yeah, it's my, it's my home community, I guess. Best way to put it.
Someone's always late. 3 people are always late, or they showed up right when it's time. Justin's always there really early. And I've even had to give him like an apology sandwich. Show up with like, sorry, dude.
I forgot all about that. That is great.
Everybody loves the drum. I can't explain it.